Greetings everyone and welcome to Brickcats. Today I'm reviewing Quarries Workshop's T-65 X-Wing Starfighter, a model loosely based on set 75301. Usually I don't go for official set modifications, but this one received multiple recommendations, and honestly it's not really a modification and more of a total rework. So thanks very much to everyone who suggested it. As always, please consider subscribing, leaving a like and a comment, or supporting what I do in any other way you see fit. I greatly appreciate it. Without any substitutions, Bricklink was giving me 4 stores and $62 without shipping and tax for this model, or about $91 with shipping and tax. In my reviews, I offer my opinions on aesthetics and model features, parts issues you might want to look out for, the build experience, the model's integrity, and I close out with my overall impression and pricing information in the conclusion. If you're watching this review, I assume that you have bought the instructions or are interested in buying them. I also assume a basic level of familiarity with Bricklink's ordering system and LEGO nomenclature. I only use genuine LEGO bricks, and I always purchase the instructions. I create these reviews for my own personal enjoyment, and in the hopes that my advice will make your experience more enjoyable and or less expensive. Quarries Workshop's X-Wing measures 13 inches long, 11 inches wide, and about 2.5 inches tall without the landing gear. With the landing gear deployed, it's about 3.25 inches off your table, and when the S-foils are in attack position, it's about 4 inches from cannon to cannon here. This is only about a centimeter longer than set 75301, and exactly the same width, and this makes this X-Wing mod probably the closest to the canonical minifigure scale, if such a scale existed. I'll do a quick comparison here. So right away you can see the difference between the two models, and yeah, I don't think it's in question which one looks better. Overall, the outer surfaces are mostly studless with the exception of these 4x4 modified tiles on the wings and some studs on the top of the Bricklink strip here. The nose cone is the same construction as on Durack's original X-Wing, and it looks very good. I think the gray slopes right here and the half of the gray hinge plate might give the impression that the nose cone extends a little too far back, but not a big deal. The sides of the fuselage all angled together very nicely. While there's no specified asymmetry in the color scheme, it would be fairly easy to add some yourself with some off-color panels, or maybe in the slope pattern down here. I believe these gray slopes represent the proton torpedo tubes, which are in the right location. And while I've used a sticker from set 75301 for the top section here to add some extra detail, this 2x6 white tile looks fine without it. The cockpit uses the more or less standard 21849 windscreen from the most recent official set, and inside there's lots of room for the pilot, along with the flight stick and some instrumentation panels there. The astromech sits in the proper place immediately to the rear, and one of the main improvements that Quarries Workshop made with this this model over set 75301 is that the astromech sits in much lower in the hull. The Bricklink strip along the top of the fighter might be a little thick, but at this scale it's pretty difficult to get the correct proportions on this section, and it still looks very good. The engines are shaped with slopes instead of cylinder pieces, and the intakes are the newer 3x3x2 round brick. Some tiles stuffed in between the studs, which is not an illegal technique by the way, create the T-shape, while the thrusters themselves are offset appropriately from the long axis of the engines. So you can see it just bumps up above the main axis of the engine there. The majority of the wings are just the single 12x6 wedge piece, and apart from the connection method to the S-foil mechanism, the wings are constructed the same way as they are in set 75301. This is one area where I think the stickers could really help, as otherwise you've got a lot of white without too much to catch your eye. And I'll show you on the bottom here, it just looks kind of plain if you just pay attention to the wing area here. Thus, it would be really nice to have some brick-built details instead of relying on these stickers. Maybe you could have a dark red tile here and just some kind of tiling just to not have to use the sticker to make it look a little more interesting. Quarries Workshop has modified the ends of the cannons to look more proportionate, although every LEGO X-Wing model is hamstrung by the absence of a good piece for the flash suppressors. These are just about the right length, and while the flick-fire missile piece for the emitter portion of the cannon gives this section kind of a bulky look in my opinion, I tried 3L and 4L bars, but the 3L bar was too short and the 4L bar was too long, so I think this works okay. I showed you a little bit earlier, but the underside of the model is pretty Spartan, and there's understandably not much going on here. I do like the landing gear a lot though. I will fold it down. This is one of the few models where I'm pretty comfortable saying I can fold these down without too much issue. These are fingered hinges, so they're very stable, and they're all in the right spot, and most importantly, let's see, it sits down pretty nicely there. But most importantly, when they fold up into the hull, you can barely see them, so these are very well integrated into the model. All you see right here is just that little Technic lift arm, so very nicely done there. The last bit of the ship to cover is the rear, and the designer has done a really good job, in my opinion, of shaping and detailing this section without going overboard. Shaping at this scale, also very difficult, but this is very solid. Like, it could be more accurate, but at the cost of more pieces and less stability. So I think this is a good compromise. And then on the thrusters, there's some dark pink with backed by a white 1x1 round plate to give the engine glow. The S-foil mechanism on this model is integrated extremely well, and is activated by pressing down on this round tile with hole in the Bricklink section. It is decently easy to operate, although for me it's a bit too far forward to use comfortably, but it's not too bad. There's no way to return the S-foils to flight position using the same mechanism, so you do have to close the wings by just pinching them together. And the other thing about the S-foil mechanism is that there's not really a positive stop. There's like a place that it kind of feels like it can't go any further, and you can kind of see the top wings relaxing a little bit there. But I found that pressing down until it kind of stops, it's just not, there's no click or anything like that. Again, not a big deal. And then the last thing about this model, sadly there's no display stand included or recommended, and since this model looks so good on display, that is a bit of a shame. With minimal modification, you can use any of the stands that I've covered here on the channel. I'll leave a couple of links in the description. This is kind of a minimally modified Jerac X-Wing version 2 stand, and I can just set that on here. And that holds it at a pretty nice angle for display. And finally, this would be a relatively easy model to customize with different colors. The instructions in the parts list only come with one color scheme, that's the one you see here with dark red, but dark blue, dark green, or pretty much whatever color. The only really real highlights are right here, and this is why I think it would be good to add some brick build detailing on the wings, just so you could customize the color scheme a little bit more without having to rely on those stickers. Quarries Workshop's T65 requires 177 elements and 619 pieces. According to the designer, the official set 75301 contains about 40% of the pieces, and this does include some of the more expensive ones, such as the cockpit and the 3x3x2 round bricks. So if you have the official set and you're looking to build this one, you can definitely eliminate a significant chunk of the cost that way. The two bracket 1x1, 1x1 in medium blue, part 36841, are hidden in the nose cone right about here, and these can be any color. The brick modified 1x4 with studs on side in blue, part 30414, is hidden and can be any color. These are behind the plates at the back of the fighter. The Technic Axle 1L with pin 2L and friction ridges, part 11214 in red, is also very common in dark bluish gray. These serve as the main connection between the front and back sections of the model, right about here. The other half of that connection are the two Technic pin 3L with friction ridges and stop bush in light bluish gray, part 32054. These are quite common in light bluish gray, but you might have black as well, and these are hidden and can be any color. The Technic plate 1x5 with smooth ends, 4 studs and center axle hole, part 32124 in blue, is hidden and can be any color. This provides the connection for the top of the front fuselage here. The 4 slope 33 3x6 without inner walls white, part 58181, can be difficult to source, and substituting these usually saves me a store. You can substitute them with 4 slope 33 3x4, part 3297, and 4 slope 33 3x2, part 3298. If you want to put the stickers on, you should keep 2 of the 58181s as they have a better flat surface for stickers, and use those for the top 2 engines. For my substitutions pricing comparison, I did keep 2 of them, 2 of the 58181s, and substituted the other 2. Oops. And I'll show you what I'm talking about here. So here is the 58181, and here is the combination with the more common slopes. So on the bottom, you can definitely sub out for the more common slopes, because you're probably not going to put stickers on the bottom. Speaking of stickers, the sticker sheet for set 75301, that's part 75301 STK01, is very inexpensive, and I think this is a case which stickers add lots on the model. I kind of explained it, especially on the wings here. But on the other hand, if you don't want the stickers, then it also looks just fine. Just keep in mind, especially on the wings, it's just going to look a little bit plain. The 2 slope 30 1x1 by 2/3 with keypad with white and yellow buttons on dark bluish gray background pattern, part 54200 PB106, can be uncommon and somewhat expensive. If you're into cockpit detailing, I think these are fine to leave in, and they are useful pieces to have if you plan on recycling this mock in the future, but otherwise they can be either omitted or substituted with an appropriate 1x1 printed sloper tile if you already have one. Finally, the cockpit is the windscreen 8x4x2 with 2 studs and bar handle with light bluish gray cockpit window frames with lines pattern, part 21849 PB05. This is the piece used in the 75301 model and is the cheapest to buy on Bricklink right now, but the other variations for the sand blue window frame, part 21849 PB04, which came with set 75218, or with the rivets pattern, part 21849 PB01, which came with the Resistance X-Wings. Both of those will work very well if you have them already. And this is the one with the rivets pattern. There aren't any particularly expensive elements in quantities that make Pick a Brick worth it, so this is one of the rare models these days that I recommend sticking just with Bricklink. Quarries X-Wing requires 267 steps, with each part or subassembly you add in each step highlighted in red against a white background. This works very well, and it's easy to tell which pieces are being added in each step. Each step only has you adding a couple of pieces at a time, and the build generally goes at a good pace, not feeling too slow or requiring too many page turns or page downs. Overall, I didn't have any major issues with the instructions in terms of sequencing or viewing angle. In a couple of steps, I thought a brief explanatory note would have been useful, such as in step 244 when you connect the 2 major sections of the fiber together, or in step 236 in which you install the S-foil actuator. This is mostly because the connection points, while they are fairly obvious given the available options, aren't shown in the instructions, and I think this would be more helpful to newer mock builders. I had a bit of trouble constructing what I'll call the nose support section in steps 29 to about 36, and this is about right here, behind all of the exterior of the fuselage. And this is mostly because until you lock everything in place a few steps later, the Technic pieces can turn freely, and you have to readjust them pretty frequently. This is just the nature of the beast, there's no good way around it, so it's definitely not anyone's fault here. But overall, there are no crazy connections or super complicated subassemblies to put together in this model. My only other very minor quibble was that the engines and cannons are missing their multipliers, 4x in case of the engines in step 237, and 2x for each of the cannons in steps 247 and 256. The build took me about an hour and a half without any pre-sorting, and I think this model is suitable for all levels of builder. Quarries Workshop's X-Wing is a very sturdy model and suitable for almost any level of play. The only pieces likely to fall off are the tips of the cannons. It is very swooshable, and in general it's just very well put together. There's not a lot of raveling or anything when you shake it, which is really impressive, especially compared to the official set. So once the S-foils are open, they tend to stay in place. The lower sections of the forward fuselage are only connected at one end, so they can move around a bit. I'm talking about this part right here. You can see it flexing. These are pretty easy to put back in place if they get bumped out of alignment. And like I mentioned earlier, the landing skids are built out of fingered hinges, which means they're very stable. They hold the fighter's weight easily, and since they are they swing in opposite directions, it's very stable when you're putting this on a flat surface. You want to push it around or do something like that. There's some very minor instability with the thrusters here from time to time, but it's definitely not a big deal. And also easy to replace. It's not as if this whole thing is just gonna fall apart if you hit it the wrong way. So overall, the designer did an excellent job making this model very sturdy. You really don't need to worry about this one. I even put this through an unintentional drop test off my desk. The only thing that came off was one of the cannon assemblies, and a couple of the larger pieces got slightly misaligned. But overall, this is about as solid as they come for a mock. This is an excellent X-Wing, and in my opinion, it's not accurate to say this is an improvement on 75301. It's essentially a completely different model. It looks great, it's very solid, and although it lacks a stand, it's simple enough to find one that will work. It's also very economical. Without substitutions, again, I got 4 stores and $62 without shipping and tax, or $91 with shipping and tax. With substitutions, I got 3 stores and $45 without shipping and tax, or about $67 with shipping and tax. It's $24 less than the original. And as I said in the parts section, this model doesn't have many elements that are going to be less expensive sourcing from Pick-a-Brick, so there's not much savings here. I did run the Pick-a-Brick test just for the fun of it. With Pick-a-Brick, I was getting $74, and that met the thresholds for free shipping. Eliminated the handling fees, but that does include tax. And the remaining elements I was able to get from one store, from Bricklink, about $2 without shipping and tax, or about $8 with shipping and tax. And the total was therefore $82, or $9 less. If you already have set 75301 and are using the parts for this model, you'll need an additional 128 elements and 358 pieces. And this was running me about $24 from 2 stores on Bricklink without shipping and tax, or about $37 with shipping and tax. So, assuming that you got set 75301 new, it's running about $40 right now. You're looking at about $77 total. That's $14 less than if you get all the parts from Bricklink. Instructions for this model cost $7 US, and there will be a link to the designer's Revickable page in the description. Thanks as always for watching my review of Quarries Workshop's T65 X-Wing. If you built this model, you have something to share that I left out, or have a question about something I didn't cover, please leave your thoughts below in the comments. Remember to subscribe, leave the video a like or a comment, and follow me on Instagram if you haven't already, and I hope to see you back next time.